If part 2 was fun, part 3 is funner! Because we're going to solve quadratics by completing a square. We have a 2x squared minus 11x plus 12 equals 0. What I want to do is rewrite this as a perfect square trinomial. So I need to find the c value that makes this a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to add some c value, but if I add a c value, I need to take away a c value. So what I need to have happen here is that the a value needs to equal 1. If this happens, then the c value equals b divided by 2 squared for a perfect square trinomial. Unfortunately, my a value equals 2. This is not a 1. So how do I make this become a 1? Well, I just factor a 2. And I'm only factoring a 2 from the terms with variables. So what times 2 gives me negative 11? Well, of course, negative 11 half, silly. So ladies and gentlemen, this becomes 2 times the quantity x squared minus 11 halves x something plus 12 something equals 0. So I need to find my c value, which makes this a perfect square trinomial. Well, c equals b divided by 2 squared. Well, notice my b value is negative 11 halves. And remember, we're going to this b value, not the original b value. So we're always looking at the factored b value. So ladies and gentlemen, instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply by 11 halves, because what's the inverse operation of division? It's multiplication, and so that means we can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of what I'm dividing by, which is 1 half. So 1 half times negative 11 halves is negative 11 fourths. We square this, and we get this beautiful number, 121 sixteenths. So I'm going to add this 121 sixteenths. But if I add 121 sixteenths, I need to subtract 121 sixteenths because I need to undo what I just did. I can't just make things magically appear. However, this really isn't 121 sixteenths. This is 2 times 121 sixteenths. So that's why I need to multiply this one by 2. Cool. What we want to do now is spend some time cleaning things up. So this is 2 times 121 sixteenths. We're mainly going to focus on this side of the equation for a little bit. So when I want to multiply this together, well, I can rewrite it out as 2 over 1 equals 121 sixteenths. So what's 2 times 121? 242. What's 1 times 16? 16. So ladies and gentlemen, notice I want to now combine these two fractions together. Before I look for a common denominator, is there some way I could simplify this? Uh-oh, it looks like I can divide both of them by 2. Might as well do that. So what is my common denominator now? Well, it looks like it's going to be 8. Cool, so it's 8. So I'm multiplying this by 8 over 8. And what's 8 over 8? It's really 1. So am I really doing anything? Not really. I'm just changing how things look. So this becomes 96 eighths minus 121 eighths. So what we can do is when we combine these together, we get negative 25 eighths. Remember, I'm trying to solve for x. So I want to get rid of this negative 25 eighths, and I want to get rid of this 2. So I can add 25 eighths to both sides to get rid of this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have this blue part. I still have this 2 out front. I could divide both sides by 2, but then I'm dividing a fraction by 2, and I don't know how to divide a fraction by fraction. What's life? Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on here. So hold up. So instead of dividing both sides by 2, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 2, which is 1 half. So this now becomes x squared minus 11 halves x plus 121 sixteenths equals 25 sixteenths. What plus what gives me negative 11 halves, but when added gives me 121 sixteenths? Well, to save yourself some time, you can actually go back to when you found the c value. And specifically look at the b value divided by 2. This is negative 11 fourths. So I'm looking at the b value divided by 2. So as I go down here, oh my gosh, what plus what gives you this, but multiply gives you this? The b values divided by 2. Wow. Oh wow, look, these are both the same. So what do you do when you multiply something by itself? Well, you're squaring it. And how do you undo squaring? Well, we can take the square root to both sides. Now, when you take the square root to both sides, you don't just get positive square root of 25 sixteenths. You get plus or minus because you're applying the square root property. What's the square? So you may not know how to take the square root of this. It may seem a little complicated. Let's break it down. What's the square root of 25? Cool. What's the square root of 16? Fantastic. So this becomes x minus 11 fourths equals plus or minus 5 fourths. Well, let's get the x by itself. I'm going to add 11 fourths to both sides. Cool. And notice these have a common denominator. So this really becomes 11 plus or minus 5 over 4. Now what we can do is we get x equals 11 minus 5 over 4, comma 11 plus 5 over 4. What's 11 minus 5? It is 6. What's 11 plus 5? It is 16. So we get 6 fourths over 16 fourths. Can we simplify that? Yeah, bet we can. We get 3 halves and 4 for the solution. Wow, I feel like I've seen this before somewhere. That's interesting. Hope you had fun.